Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Santa Barbara County One Climate Workshop. We're really excited that you're able to join us today. Please give us a couple minutes as we welcome everyone else in from the waiting room. All right. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. We have a great full agenda for you all today. Once again, welcome to the County of Santa Barbara One Climate Initiative workshop. I'm Tammy Seal. I'm with PlaceWorks, a consultant to the County of Santa Barbara, and I'm going to be your lead facilitator for the workshop today. And we're going to go ahead and get started. We have a couple kind of orientation notes for you. So first, I'd like to call on Ricky to share a note for our Spanish-speaking participants.
Hola, muchísimas gracias a todos por atender esta tarde. Sé que todos tienen muchas cosas importantes que hacer con sus schedules. Unas notas, por favor. Vamos a tener interpretación simultánea. Si necesitan escuchar la presentación, en español hay un globo del lado derecho en su pantalla. Se presenta como un icono. Ahí puede escoger su idioma en español si quisiera escuchar la presentación durante todo el tiempo en español. Yo voy a ser el que va a ser el facilitador del grupo en español también. Y si tienen preguntas en español, por favor, mándenmelas a mí por el chat. Ahí ven mi nombre, Ricky Pozos, español, y podré ayudarles a contestar las preguntas. Gracias.
Thank you, Ricky. A couple of things before we get started and launch our Zoom poll. I would like to ask that everyone stay muted during our main part of the meeting presentation. We do encourage and welcome your questions. If you could send those through the chat. The best way to get those to me is to send them directly to me as a direct message. And I should be showing up in your chat list as project questions, ask me, Tammy. If you happen to send them to one of our other meeting facilitators or co-hosts, they'll make sure to pass them along to me as well. We do have a dedicated time later in the meeting where we'll be able to ask and answer those questions. You will be able to unmute and participate in the meeting when we go to the small breakout rooms a little later in the meeting. You also, as Ricky noted, you have the option to select the language for this meeting. If at any point you hear our Spanish translation, please do look at the interpretation channel at the bottom of your screen and make sure you have either turned it off or selected English. Great. Okay, so we have a quick poll here just to warm us up and get us started as we get going. So Sean, I think this is a great time to launch our Zoom poll. Thank you. So we have 3 questions that we'd like to ask of you. If you're only seeing 1 or 2 of them, please use the slider bar on the right to scroll down and see our 3rd question. So I'm going to give you about a minute here to go through these options. So the first question asks if you have previously participated in a Board of Supervisors hearing or other county sponsored meeting or workshop. The second one asks for you to share with us how you heard about the workshop. And the 3rd question asked whether you would like a little bit more background on how to use the Zoom features. We also have the option for you to see the captioning for this meeting. So if you need or would benefit from closed captioning and you are not seeing that on your screen right now, please send us a note. You can send it to me, project questions, or to Sean, who's our Zoom expert for today's meeting, and we can give you some advice on how to turn on those captions. If you have captioning as an option, you can also select being able to see the full transcript to the right of your screen. Great. Well, I hope everybody's had an opportunity to go through those 3 questions. Sean, I think we can perhaps close that up and share the results.
Great. There, it should be up on the screen.
They are. Thank you. So it's so hopefully everybody can see these. It looks like most folks who are joining us today have previously participated in a county-sponsored event. About a third of you, this is one of your first events, and we're really excited that you're able to join us to hear more about the county's One Climate Initiative and to be engaged in county climate action planning. It's nice to see that we all of our techniques kind of worked in getting the word out. And for those of you who maybe, we're on the receiving end of this, what we'll encourage you to do as we go forward is to share more about the One Climate Initiative with your network. It does look like there's a couple folks who would benefit from a brief overview of Zoom. So we will just go through those couple slides here to orient folks. For those of you who perhaps spend many of your days on Zoom, just bear with us for a couple minutes as we do this. It's always helpful to ensure that everyone who is joining us understands how to fully participate in the meeting. And again, as a reminder, if you have any questions, please do share those with us through the chat. Sean is going to close these poll results right now. If this Zoom poll does not disappear from your screen, you may push the close button or minimize it so that you don't have to see it. Great. Okay, so for most of you, and these controls are probably going to be best suited for those of you who are joining us through a computer. So hopefully this snapshot looks pretty similar to what your view is as well. So you have the option to see a single speaker or to see all participants in what we call a gallery view. So you can change that in the upper right button of your screen. It says view, and when you click on it, you will have the option to do gallery or speaker. You also have the option to use this to see the meeting in the full screen or to see it minimized. If you're in full screen and would like to see it smaller, you can click on that view and exit full screen. You also have the option to see the meeting participant list, which when you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a bar at the bottom. It should have a microphone icon, a video icon, participant icon, and a chat option. And so if you'd like to send us a note, be sure to hit that chat button and you'll be able to send us a note there. If you want to see who is at the meeting, you can click the participant button. And you have the option to turn your video on and off. And you also are enabled to turn your audio on and off, though we're asking that you stay muted during the main part of the meeting. During this main part of the meeting, it's absolutely fine if you'd like to have your video off. We do encourage you to turn on your video when we break into the small group discussions. Great. And yeah, so I've just gone over the mute option and the participant. And this is what it should look like if you're on a tablet or a smartphone. So it's a little flipped in that your controls are at the top and the bottom of your screen. If you think that you should have a control you're not seeing, you may need to swipe to left or right to get to that option. or click on an icon on the left part of your tablet or smartphone screen to change your view. Okay, and if that was too high level or not enough, please do send any questions that you have about the functions of Zoom to us, to Sean, who's labeled Zoom questions, ask me. So as I mentioned, we have a full agenda for you today. We're really excited to have our county project team share information with you about One Climate and some of our projects. After the presentation by Garrett and Whitney, we will have time for question and answer. It is possible that you will have more questions than we have time today to answer. If that turns out to be the case, we will take all the questions in the chat and provide written responses and post those on the project website and let you all know when that information is available. We're going to have small group discussions for about half an hour and then have time when we come back to the main group to share kind of highlights and summaries of our conversations, and then we will wrap up. I do want to note that if you registered for the 6 o'clock workshop, our second workshop is this evening. The agenda for that workshop is identical to the agenda for this workshop. We will cover the same information as well. Great. Okay. Eli, we can go to the next slide. We do, it certainly takes a village and a great team to host a workshop like this. And so I do want to take a moment to recognize project team members who are here with us today. I won't be able to go through everybody's name, but I do know that some of you, you'll get to know your small group facilitator and your note taker a little bit better later in the meeting. All project team members are identified as co-hosts in the participant list, and you'll be able to talk with them more, as I mentioned, during the breakout group. So I'm very appreciative of the folks who are able to join us today, and in particular to our staff who are able to support Spanish translation for this workshop. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Garrett Wong and Whitney Wilkinson, who will take us through an overview of the One Climate Initiative and the Climate Change Vulnerability Assessment Project. Garrett?
Great. Thank you so much, Tammy. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. Glad to see you here virtually. My name is Garrett Wong, and I'm the Climate Program Manager for the County of Santa Barbara. I would like to begin first with a land acknowledgement. Next slide. The County of Santa Barbara was created on the unceded land of the Chumash peoples. We want to acknowledge the Chumash community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. We want to acknowledge that the state of California and the county were founded upon exclusions and erasures of many indigenous peoples. This acknowledgement demonstrates a commitment to beginning the process of working to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism, like racial inequity. Next slide. I'm pleased to introduce the One Climate Initiative. The One Climate Initiative is a countywide effort to demonstrate to the community the county's leadership on taking climate action and raise awareness and increase participation across a variety of county-led planning and sustainability efforts. We hope to provide simplified and accessible messaging, outreach, and engagement through a single platform on a variety of plans and projects and programs. This includes the Climate Change Vulnerability Assessment, which we will hear later, the 2030 Climate Action Plan, which seeks to reduce our countywide unincorporated areas carbon emissions by 50%, and an active transportation plan, which will help make walking and biking safer in the county. Each of these projects are being led by a different department and division of the county. Another effort not directly led by the county will also be customer enrollment in Central Coast Community Energy. These projects are not happening in spite of COVID and other events from this year, but in light of them. Ultimately, we need to be responsive to the community's needs and challenges and ensure that our plans, projects, and programs improve our community well-being. Each of these projects have their own teams, project needs and objectives and timelines, but we hope to simplify and unify our messaging, our outreach and engagement activities through One Climate. Next slide. One of the most significant activities happening next year is the customer enrollment in Central Coast Community Energy, or 3CE. In 2019, the County Board of Supervisors, along with the cities of Santa Maria, Guadalupe, Solvang, Buellton, Goleta, and Carpinteria, all adopted ordinances and resolutions in order to join 3CE, which is formerly known as Monterey Bay Community Power. 3CE is a community choice energy program which is formed and run by local governments to provide more options to electricity customers, increase the use of renewable energy, reduce carbon emissions, and reinvest ratepayer dollars into a local clean economy. In January, electric customers, go back, please. In January, electric customers in the cities of Santa Maria, Guadalupe, Solvang, and the northern unincorporated county areas will automatically be enrolled as customers of 3CE. Customers in Carpinteria, Goleta, and the south coast of the unincorporated county will be enrolled in October. And in 2022, customers in Buellton will be enrolled. Customers won't experience any material change, except the next utility bill they receive will feature a new line item from 3CE. Customers have options. They can do nothing and automatically join 3CE. They can opt up to increase their use of renewable energy, or they can opt out of the program and continue to receive their energy supply from PG&E. For more information, you can visit 3cenergy.org or countyofsb.org/3CE. Next slide. So there are many ways you can get engaged with the One Climate initiative and the county's projects. Some activities are more involved than others. First, we recommend everyone sign up for our monthly One Climate newsletter, which provides resources, updates, and upcoming activities. You can help spread the word by promoting and sharing One Climate with your personal and professional networks. Please find the County of Santa Barbara's accounts on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can visit our website at countyofsb.org/oneclimate and participate in the online tools, such as our Climate Ideas Wall and Vulnerability Assessment Map. You can continue to participate in workshops such as these to learn, engage, and provide your input and feedback. You can also participate in listening sessions and stakeholder meetings, which have yet to be scheduled, but will be targeted at different regions, sectors, and population groups. You can also facilitate a presentation by the county. We welcome any invitation to present before your organization, neighborhood, or other networks that you may be a part of. Please visit countyofsb.org/oneclimate to learn more, and feel free to contact us at any time. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Whitney Wilkinson from the Long Range Planning Division to present the Climate Change Vulnerability Assessment. Whitney?
Great, thanks, Garrett. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Whitney Wilkinson, and I'm the project manager for the Climate Change Vulnerability Assessment and Safety Element Update. And I'm going to introduce you today to kind of some of the key concepts of the Climate Change Vulnerability Assessment Project, some of the work we've done so far, and share some opportunities for you to get involved and to help shape that work. Next slide. So why are we doing a climate change vulnerability assessment? Well, in part because we have to. It's required by state regulations, and these regulations require us to update our land use policies in the safety element update, or in the safety element, to incorporate climate change vulnerabilities and adaptation strategies to address those vulnerabilities. But it's also important for us to understand how a changing climate may harm our community and which elements, such as groups of people and community assets, are most vulnerable to climate change effects. Next slide. What you see here are the 4 stages of a vulnerability assessment and adaptation planning process. Notice that outreach and engagement are incorporated throughout the project. They're in blue at the bottom. We began the vulnerability assessment this past summer and plan to wrap up this stage of the project in summer of next year. We'll then take the vulnerabilities identified in the first phases of the project and begin developing adaptation strategies to address them in the latter phases of the project beginning in 2021. We're now going to take a closer look at the steps involved in the first two phases of the diagram that make up the vulnerability assessment. So these are the four main steps and questions we hope to answer. And we will go into more detail, but broadly, those questions include: what climate effects will we see? Who will be most at risk? What resources will be at risk? And as we assess these vulnerabilities, what are the largest and most immediate vulnerabilities we will need to address first? So our first step is to determine what climate change projections and hazards we should anticipate. In other words, what negative effects are we likely to see? Based on the science, we know to expect warmer temperatures and more heat waves, about the same level of rainfall over the course of the year, but over a shorter duration, which can result in more flooding, less frequent rainfall and longer droughts, rising seas and eroding coastlines, more agricultural pests and disease, human health hazards carried by pest animals and insects, kind of like COVID-19. We've already seen landslides and debris flows, and we will continue to see large and frequent wildfire. The next step is to determine who in our community is most at risk to these climate change effects. We refer to these groups as frontline communities, defined as those that experience climate change impacts earlier and more severely than others, because they may lack resources or there may be specific conditions that prevent them from adapting to climate change effects. Here are the groups we're looking at. They include children, high pollution burden communities, cost burden households, which are those that more than 30% of their income is spent on housing, households in mobile homes, households in poverty or have low incomes, isolated and rural communities, low-resourced ethnic minorities, outdoor workers, overcrowded households, the unhoused or homeless, people living on single access roads, people with chronic health problems, disabilities and mobility issues, people with limited English proficiency, people without a high school degree, without access to transportation or telecommunications, renters, senior citizens, the unemployed, undocumented, and LGBTQIA communities. The next thing we need to understand is what community resources will be at risk to negative effects of climate change. Another term for resource is asset. We are defining assets as a valued feature of a community fairly broadly. This includes infrastructure like roads, levees and dams, and transmission lines that support electric utilities, buildings, which include homes, libraries, medical facilities, schools, and more. Assets also will include key community services, which goes beyond just the physical infrastructure, but looks at the services that infrastructure can provide. This includes communication, emergency medical response, energy delivery, public health and safety, just to name a few. Oh, go back a slide. It also includes ecosystems and natural resources we value, not only for recreation and scenic value, but also the important services they can provide, such as groundwater storage or coastal flood attenuation. We will also look at how climate change will affect our economic sectors, both in terms of disruptive disasters and long-term changes that may affect the vitality of those economic sectors. We hope that because the scope of our community assets is broad and inclusive, we will be able to consider a large range of potential climate-related effects. Next slide. So to bring it all together, we'll examine how these climate change hazards will harm our assets and frontline communities to understand our most critical and immediate vulnerabilities. One way we will do this is through mapping. We'll map the locations of future hazards along with community assets and frontline communities. The overlap will help us understand the what and where we are most vulnerable. We'll also develop narrative descriptions characterizing vulnerability for assets and communities that are not easily mapped. An example would be children, which are found throughout the county, and wildfire smoke, which also tends to spread out all over the county. I'm now going to show you an example of what our vulnerability assessment mapping looks like. In this example, we'll take a look at coastal access and recreation resources as our asset. And we've zoomed in on one particular example, Goleta Beach County Park. Notice the locations of the sandy beach, the grassy park areas in green, and Goleta Slough located just to the north. Next slide. This image shows you what is projected as a result of sea level rise in areas of permanent inundation as of the year 2050, based on modeling conducted by the U.S. Geological Survey. Notice the increase in flooded areas along the beach and slough behind the parking lot. Next slide. This image shows you the same area with sea level rise projections in year 2100. Notice nearly all the beach is permanently flooded, in addition to much of the park and western parking lot. I'll also note that this example does not account for storm surge or erosion, which can exacerbate the loss of beach and park. This is a sad example of what we may lose, but it helps us understand the severity and time frame at which we may experience this loss. And this is a critical first step in developing adaptation strategies down the line to address the loss of this asset. And in this case, our County Parks Division is already looking at strategies and projects to help this park adapt. Now I'd like to highlight a few of the ways you can learn more about our project and get involved. Please check out our project website to learn more. The URL is at the bottom of our slide, and you can also navigate to our project site from the One Climate Initiative website. At our project website, you'll find a map tool we've developed specifically to get your input on what community assets, frontline communities, and climate hazards we should be thinking about that concern you. And there's an image there of the map there on the right. Please leave us a comment on the map and we'll make sure that your concerns are incorporated into our project. You can also sign up to receive project email notifications to learn more about future workshops and hearings and track the progress of our project. We also have another workshop planned for the late January timeframe, where we'll be taking a deeper dive into the vulnerability assessment analysis. So please plan on joining if that interests you. I also want to emphasize the importance of engaging with a diverse array of stakeholders on this project, since climate change can have many indirect effects that ripple through our community. Our goal is to hear from everyone, especially those who will feel the effects first and worst. For this reason, there are many stakeholders we have engaged and will continue to reach out to as part of the project. This includes our county core team, which consists of county and external advisors, community members like you all, and a couple standing advisory bodies that will advise us on agricultural and equity issues. We also plan to reach out to stakeholder groups in the coming months and meet with those who are interested in providing feedback on the project or collaborating with us. So if that's of interest to you, feel free to reach out to me or my team. And that concludes our presentations on the One Climate Initiative and the Climate Change Vulnerability Assessment. And our team is happy to take any questions you might have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Whitney and Garrett. We do have a couple questions that have come in to get us started. If you have any questions for Whitney or Garrett or others on the project team related to what's presented today or the project, please do send those to us through chat. And we are working on sharing project links as well, so you can also go take a look at the map that Whitney shared. We will have more information available online soon for the mapping. So our first question, I believe this is going to be for Garrett. We had a question related to 3CE, and that is whether it applies to Southern California Edison customers.
Yes, so the cities of Carpinteria and Goleta, as well as the unincorporated area along the south coast, all of whom are customers of Edison, will be enrolled in 3CE come October 2021. The city of Santa Barbara, however, is doing something unique in that they are running their own community choice energy program, which is kind of what this is called, community choice energy. And so currently all customers along the South Coast and Southern California Edison territory will be automatically enrolled in these programs unless they decide to opt out just before that happens. There will be notifications that every customer receives 2 months prior and 2 months post this enrollment, and they will have the opportunity to exercise their options and learn more. I know 3CE has been hosting workshops for residents and customers who are going to be enrolled in January, and I imagine that they'll also be holding webinars for the Southern California Edison customers when that happens in the fall next year. And then just lastly, for more information, you can always go to countyofsb.org/3CE or visit 3cenergy.org.
Okay, thanks, Garrett. We have, I guess, a quick follow-up to that, asking what does opting in do for the customer? What should their expectations be?
So what does opting?
Yeah, there might be a little clarification to be about whether you opt in or out of the program.
Sure. So there are 3 options for all the customers. So the first option would be to do nothing because this is an automatic enrollment. All customers will automatically become customers of 3CE. And again, there's no material change that happens. No one, the lights aren't going to, your energy will still turn on. Your utility bill will mostly be the same. It's coming from the original investor-owned utility, either Pacific Gas and Electric or Southern California Edison. But if you start to look at the line items on those utility bills, you'll notice that there will be a line item that's dedicated to 3CE. It's not an addition, it's a replacement, because 3CE is now providing what's called generation service, meaning they're procuring and delivering the energy generation part of your energy needs. And again, this allows 3CE to increase the amount of renewables that get delivered to the customers. So you can opt, so you don't have to do anything to receive that benefit. You can opt out of the program entirely. You can do so within a certain window of time, either shortly before or after, I believe it's 60 days of enrollment. And you won't have that, that change in your utility bill. You'll still remain a customer of PG&E or SCE, and you won't experience any difference. If you opt out after that window, there will be a small administrative charge. I don't believe it's more than $5. I think someone actually might be able to correct me on that one. And then the other option is that you can opt up. So 3CE offers multiple or two utility rates. One is 3C Choice and the other one is 3C Prime. And 3C Choice is basically trying to provide parity with what PG&E offers in terms of its cost, but it offers a slightly more renewable energy content. And then 3C Prime is 100% renewable energy coming to your coming delivered to the customer. And that does carry a bit of a price premium. And so this is for customers who are interested in powering their home or their business with 100% renewable energy and meeting their sustainability goals. It may not be for everyone, but it is a choice that they have.
Thank you, Garrett. We did get a few more questions related to this program, and we are going to need to turn to our next activity here in a moment. So what I've done is I've provided a link to the Central Coast Energy's website, and they have some frequently asked questions there. So I'd encourage folks to take a quick look there and see if the question that you've sent to us might be answered there. I'll also be sharing all these questions with Garrett. And if we do have time a little later on, we'll see if we can provide more answers either in the chat or as follow-up. We do have one question related to the vulnerability assessment, Whitney. And that is it says Goleta Beach was listed as an asset, but is it also considered an at-risk ecosystem or natural resource with a note about the beach and the slough having that value?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. That's a good good comment. Yeah, there's a number of things that Goleta Beach Park provides. Not only is it a recreational resource and point of coastal access, but it also contains beach habitats and various wetland types as well, because the slough mouth is right there. So there are a number of ways of looking at the potential losses of that asset and thinking about the various climate hazards that could affect the park besides just its recreational values. So I think that's a great comment. Thank you for that.
All right, so this is going to be kind of the last follow-up here. Seems like there are a couple of questions related to the sea level rise modeling. So I believe we can point folks as well to the project website where we will be providing more information, and the county has conducted a sea level rise vulnerability assessment, and that report is available on the county's website. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We previously conducted a vulnerability assessment aimed at sea level rise, the Coastal Resiliency Project. So there was some sea level rise analysis conducted as part of that project, and we're kind of re-examining that hazard as part of this project. So I think both that project's report and results are important to consider as we move forward with this project, and we'll be doing that.
Great, thanks. Okay, I'd like to So thank you again to Whitney and Garrett for their presentations and follow-up. Again, if you have questions, please continue to send those to us in the chat, and we can provide follow-up in the follow-up materials to this workshop if we're not able to get to them today. So Eli, let's take us to our next slide. So we do have one thing, quick activity we'd love for you to join us with right now. And that's a visioning exercise before we go into our breakout rooms. This is something that we can do together. So if you could please go to this project website, minty.com. You should see the option to put in the code, which would take you to our slide. And I'm going to share my screen here in just a moment so that you can see, we can like look at everybody's results. So I'm also hopefully putting the link to vote into the chat. If you're watching us on a screen and you have your phone, you should be able to scan that QR code and go there on your phone as well. And so Eli, I think I'm going to we're going to share the results while folks get oriented to the question. So the question is, what words describe your vision of a climate resilient Santa Barbara County? And you have the option to share with us up to 5 words. When you think ahead, when we're looking out to 2030, 2050, what does the county look like, feel like? How does it function in an achievement of a resilient environment in our response to climate change? So I'm going to also post in the chat how you can see those live results. So you can see the word cloud with everybody as well. Oops, I have to put that there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take a look. Oh, Sean, can you enable screen sharing for me? And or Eli, you might want to grab it if I can. Oh, here we go. All right, so hopefully you all can see the word cloud. Can I get a nod or a thumbs up if you're able to see this? Great. So thanks to those of you who've been able to access the Minty poll and able to share your vision for, at least a description of what you envision when you think of resilience in the future. For word clouds, you can see that the words that have been shared, they're bigger. So equitable, clean, healthy, sustainable, safe, inclusive. Those are shared visions and descriptions that many of you have. So I'm going to keep this open. Feel free to, we've got it set where you can put in at least 5 words. Feel free to keep thinking about this. If words aren't coming to mind straight away, you are welcome to keep working on this throughout the workshop, and I'll do my best to remember to share it again with us after we come out of the breakout room. But right now, it seems like there's definitely shared vision for an equitable, sustainable, healthy, affordable, inclusive future here in the county. So hopefully we can talk a little bit more about that as we go into the breakout rooms. So now we're going to go into small group discussions. So in just a moment, you'll be asked by Zoom if you'd like to go on to a breakout room, and we'd encourage you to accept that note or click on the button there. But before you get whisked away, I'd like to just go over what you ought to expect while you're in there. So you'll be in the breakout rooms for about 30 to 35 minutes. Each group has a designated facilitator and note taker. And again, as a reminder, group 1 is for Spanish language, Spanish speaking participants. The other groups will be in English. When you land into your breakout room, we encourage you to unmute and to share your video if you have that option. When you're in the breakout room, you will still be able to chat. However, you will be limited to chat with folks in your breakout room only. If you have any issues while you're in the breakout room, you will have the option to return to the meeting, or what we call the main room. And you also will have the option to leave the meeting. If you're having any issues, we do encourage you to just return to the meeting. Sean will be there to help with any questions that you have. I will also be available. If for some reason you accidentally leave the meeting, if there's a power surge or something happens, it's like in my case, if my cat plays with a cord or something and I suddenly lose the connection, don't worry, you can rejoin us, go back to the link that got you here in the first place. You'll pop back in the main room, you'll see Sean and he can get you assigned to a breakout room, no problem. When you're in the group, the facilitator will ask everyone to introduce themselves. We'd like to have one spokesperson from each group to be able to share highlights when we get back together in the main room. So it'd be great if you could select someone at that time. And then we have these 4 questions that your facilitator will guide you through. You'll have a note taker who will be doing the best that they can to record your comments. Please do feel free to keep an eye on that note taker. If you feel like something that you may have said isn't correctly captured, please take the opportunity to update that. It's really important to us that your comments are shared correctly. This is not only is the recording a record of this meeting, but we also use the notes as we move forward in all the projects that Garrett mentioned. We want to make sure that we have your comments and that we're able to incorporate them into all the projects moving forward. Okay, so now we're ready to go into breakout groups. Are we ready, Sean?
I believe so. Let me open those up right now.
Okay, so you should all be assigned to a breakout room and have the option to pop right into it. And we'll see you on the other side. Have fun.